okay, I am safe to share my heart and I'll be okay if even if it's rejected or not understood.
Your dreams will always require your healing, and you need to know that in order to move forward. If you feel stuck in your creativity, your art, your business, or your life, then it's essential to understand that you are being asked to heal what's in the way of you creating what you dream about. This podcast is all about the relationship between your emotional health and your creativity. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create podcast, and I have been doing a lot of solo episodes, which has been really fun because there's been a lot of things that I've wanted to share, but I've missed the conversations that I've gotten to have with healing professionals and then also artists in their field, just putting stuff out there. And that is why I am so excited to have just a very dear friend who is an amazing photographer and poet, Miss Micaela Fox.
Oh my
Welcome.
goodness. Hello, Courtney. It is so good to be
Hi.
here. I'm so honored. Oh, what a gift.
I'm so excited to have you here. And we were just talking a little bit before about the themes in this book that you've put out, Iridescent, that we're going to talk about, but just joy, just authentic joy that comes on the other side of a healing journey.
Yeah.
And also the creativity and the courage to put out the things that you dream about on the other side of a lot of healing, which is what your book is about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I would say Iridescence was a 1.5 year long journey of just, I kind of make jokes about it. I call it kind of my eat, pray, love season. I
Totally
traveled a lot in this year and was really just kind of grappling with a lot of human emotions and heartbreak and anxiety and different levels of disappointment that had hit for a while, and honestly areas of grief that I'd held for decades.
Totally.
That we could get into later, but poetry had always been a form for me to just like a window into my soul and give language and articulation when my heart really needed it. And within mystery and within just pain when things didn't make sense, and always found solace in that. So yeah, Iridescence is a huge journey of, I would say, like the full spectrum of what it means to be human and kind of ridding shame from the human experience and being able to embrace like every part of you and your story and your emotions, and just ripping judgment and shame off. And doing the courageous work of actually sitting with yourself and getting honest and looking at the places that you don't want to look at. And looking at the places that even if you looked at, they still might not make sense. And is that okay? Like, you know? And so,
that is really beautiful and really evident from your work. And I know from conversations that we've had in the past that like certainty has just never been your goal, and that connection has been your goal.
Yeah.
And that is a real sign of well-being, to not need certainty to be okay, but to trust in and cultivate a connection to God and to yourself. And that's your grounded place. Does that feel true?
Oh my goodness. If anything, I feel very seen by that statement. Thank you for saying that.
Of course.
Yeah. I would say that's 100% true. I mean, even one of my poems ends with sometimes sometimes the hardest questions in life are the most interesting. And then one of them, I literally end with, well, why does everything have to make sense? Like, but why? And at the end of the day, I think all of it comes down to control. I mean, we want it to make sense. We want like the areas of our pain to make sense so deeply because it would help bring control to a situation or experience that feels out of control, or where we feel out of control.
Yeah.
And then it is that I think I've had to really go deep places with, wow, I am not God. Like,
what?
I know, it's crazy. Shocker. I am human, and I have limits in my ability to understand, and I can trust the Lord where he is sovereign. And it's the ability to have to let go in places and surrender. And that is where, and I love that you said that's where the connection comes through. Because I have found in those places of pain, even if I were to fully understand, like even if X plus Y equals Z and like everything lined up, I don't know if that would actually even give me the peace that I would be looking for. Like at the end of the day, I'm looking for the connection that got, like, where I feel separated. And that's what the need for understanding is because I'm grappling for the bridge to be built between the gap of where I feel this void or separation. And so when the Lord comes in that place, he's not always coming to give me clarity. He's coming to remind me, I've never left you. I'm not distant from you in this space.
Right.
And then that is what, I didn't need clarity. I needed connection.
Yes. Always. There's one of my favorite teachers. She calls it the fundamental groundlessness of being human, and how so many of us try and avoid that feeling of just falling, or like, what is this? We're on a spinning planet, like existential, kind of questions. But like, if God is with us in it, then there really is nothing to be afraid of, even when nothing makes sense, which fear will really make things feel like nothing makes sense. There's nothing to grab onto when you're in fear. But if you know somebody's with you in it, then your whole body, your whole, mind and heart can rest.
Yeah, that is so true. I was just having a conversation the other day with a friend where she was in a pretty vulnerable place in a relationship that's getting pretty intimate in a beautiful way. Everything is good, but they might be getting engaged, but she's feeling like so spun out because she's like, I'm so afraid. I feel like I'm out of control. And I got this picture of like, I feel like you didn't sign up for it, but you're holding on to like these propellers on the top of a helicopter. Like you thought you were getting inside the helicopter, but you're like holding on for dear life to the propeller at the top. And you're like, how did I get here? And honestly,
I wanted to go for a ride, but
I feel like that's fear though, is like the more we try to make sense of it or fight it, the more that we're just like holding on to this propeller at the top of this helicopter, and we're like, and then it's not until we let go, or we can do the like, even grappling with thinking of like worst case scenario, and then doing the, well, you know what, and so what if that happens, and I will and so what, like I can let go. And it's in the letting go that realizing, we actually had been self-sabotaging ourselves, trying to, fix this in our own strength. I heard from a leader one time that they were like, anxiety and fear can never be healed alone. And I think it's wild how a lot of times we try so hard internally to control fear. I would say anxiety is us trying to control fear, on fear. In isolation, and it's when we can do the vulnerability and let go, because fear is that place of separation. We need connection, and fear can never get solved alone. But it's funny how much fear, it makes us want to isolate and hide to try and manage it, but that's the last thing to do in that case. So
I know it's ironic too. You're absolutely right. Anxiety is trying to control fear, which makes you more afraid.
Yeah.
And that fear work that is so vital to well-being is actually knowing that you will be okay in the worst case scenario. And that really does, I mean, for some people that's more extreme than others. Sometimes you need support to do some of that work. But
Absolutely.
I think about like even Jesus, because Easter's coming and, you know, so many spiritual paths invite you to have this kind of transcendent experience and transcend your human experience. And I feel like Jesus is the only path that invites us deeper into our human experience. And like Easter being this celebration of life after death, a nervous system that's free from the fear of death, free from the fear of the worst case scenario, because it knows it'll be okay no matter what, is a nervous system that's free to connect and create, which is heaven on earth, which is what Jesus said that he came to bring. So I feel like on this side of healing, Jesus and his life means so much to me, so much more to me, just even scientifically knowing what the body needs to feel safe to connect and create, and how he modeled it so beautifully. And I feel like there are actually a lot of ties in your book to that idea of like rooting in deeper to your human experience. And you talked about like shame being a huge part of realizing that like there's nothing that, what does Mr. Rogers say? Everything is mentionable. Everything is manageable. If it's mentionable, it's manageable. So if you can talk about it and you're in connection, you're okay. Like we can handle it. We can all get through it together. So I want to talk to you about the process of creating this book. I'm holding it right now. And it is it's a really beautiful book, and it's kind of reads like a memoir in some ways, and has a lot of like open-ended, you know, questions and really beautiful metaphors and a few different themes in the book that I want to talk about. But I mentioned this before our talk. The artist, or anybody actually, has, in order for you to do something new, you have to see to believe that it can be done by someone else first. And so the reason why I want to talk to artists and I want to talk to you today is because I want to hear what your process of actually creating a book from thin air, from nothing. And what gave you the idea, and what were some of the steps that you had to figure out along the way to get it out into the world?
Oh my goodness. Yes. It was a beautiful and vulnerable journey at that. Also, to what you were saying about just the humanity of Jesus, just want to touch on that. That is, his incarnation is everything. And it's my favorite thing about the gospel is, that he teaches us how to be human. And it, unlike any other religion, it's not to escape. I would mention Gnosticism, how a lot of it is just this wanting to escape from earth or earthly matter, or like our body is like a thing we need to escape from. And the gospel is actually the opposite. It teaches us how to accept and be fully at peace and in love with our humanity, which is
totally.
But my process, oh my goodness. Well, to be honest, I have written poetry since I was a little girl. Like it had always been something that I had gravitated towards, but was something I never shared. Like it was a lock in my heart, and I just was at night would write all the time. But because poetry literally is like the language of the heart, it feels so vulnerable to share. It's like, hey, here's my heart on a platter. What do you think about this?
What do you think about? Totally.
And then as I've just grown deeper and kind of even wrestled with trying to, unlock and find my own voice and feel safety. I love that you keep using the word safety of like, okay, I am safe to share my heart and I'll be okay if even if it's rejected or not understood.
Facing the worst case scenario, even like
Mm-hmm.
with the outcome of you, putting everything that could go wrong or could happen after you put it
Mm-hmm.
out, you were like, you made peace
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. And I mean, making peace with it was a whole journey because
Totally.
I
Totally. It's such
mean,
a simple way to say
yeah,
that.
I will tell you, there were moments I did
Yeah.
not feel peace
Yeah.
as I got closer and closer to actually publishing. Oh my goodness, I just perfectionism and shame for sure hit walls with me
Yeah.
where I was reading my manuscript like obsessively, just being
Yeah.
like, will this make sense, or what will people think about this, or like, oh, this feels
Yeah.
really bold, like
Yeah.
and so I originally, to be honest, I felt the Lord prompt me. I was going through a pretty hard season and I felt him prompt me, like, I want you to practice being present and I want you to write a poem like every day for the next month. I was going on a trip to Europe. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. So it was not
Mm.
even in the intention of writing a book. I had a dream in my heart to write a book, 100%, always have.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I've seen friends do it before me. So there was a part of me of like, I knew this was possible, just like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I went on that trip and I started writing. And what became what I committed to potentially do for the month while I was gone turned into me writing consistently every day, probably for over 145 days straight.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow.
Um, I just felt gripped with it. Was like it was pouring out of me. I just something got unlocked, like just unlocked inside of me, and I was just writing and
Mm-hmm.
processing my world, my story, my heart. And Jesus was so near in it. And I started finding themes in my writing and started discovering, wow, this is connecting way back even to my childhood. Um, and the fact that I named it Iridescence was special because iridescence was something that I've always been just absolutely drawn to, allured. Like it just filled me with wonder how light could break through a window and just array into a rainbow. Um,
Yeah.
and so, and I think that's a lot of the essence of my book is how when I quote at the very beginning of my book, Alyssa Smith, where it says, as kids, we're afraid of the dark, as adults, we're afraid of the light.
Yeah.
And I heard that quote and I just was hit. I was like, I feel like that kind of sums up my book altogether, about how
Yeah.
allowing the light to hit every part and it becoming that rainbow instead of, gripping tight to black and white dualistic thinking or trying to hold on to control. But my
Yes.
process
Yeah.
was long. It was about a year and a half and a beautiful journey. And how I went after it, honestly, I ran and I tripped. I did everything on my own.
Yeah.
I I
You mean nobody discovered you and said, let me publish this book for you? What are you
oh oh
saying?
my goodness, absolutely not. And I'll just do a disclaimer for young authors, first time authors. If you don't have a following of like 500,000 followers, etc.,
Totally. That
it's
doesn't
just
happen.
it's just
Yeah.
not in the literary world right now. That is, yeah. But no,
Oh, same. Yeah. Same in music.
oh,
Same in, yeah,
it's,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can get frozen there and discouraged. And it's like, oh, whoa, 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 no, like
Yeah.
you still do it. Like,
Yeah.
what you have to bring is so worthy and
Yeah.
matters. Um, and so, yeah, I went after it. I had some connections. I knew of this printing press that was actually out of Reading, and I got connected with them, and they connected me to some editors, some proofreaders. And I mean, I just started running, and I hit walls and I tripped, but I just kept running. Um, and was putting it together. And I actually took the photo of the cover at the
Oh,
front.
of course you did.
Yeah,
Of
that
course.
flower. And I had a friend. I just used connections. I had another friend. I said, "Hey, can you help me put this cover together?" Kind of just rallied, and it really is. It's just jumping off a cliff. There's
Yeah.
just no other way to put it other than like you just have to jump, like as if you're bungee jumping or skydiving. You just have to get out of the airplane. You just have to go. Um, and people will help you. I think you'll find
Hmm.
more people actually getting inspired and come around you when they see, oh my gosh, she's doing it. Um, and and then you get the help that you need. You won't be left alone. And so yeah, that's how that really came together. I got the cover done. I went through the editing. I mean, I did everything. The proofreading, all the revision. I was so thankful for the printing press, Printopia. Shout out to them. Love them. They helped me so much. And now I know exactly what I'm doing because I did it all on my own. I can help other publishers like
Right.
publish a book. I feel very like equipped in the literary world, and it was such a fun
Mm.
journey learning
Hmm.
and failing. But yeah, it was a lot of just wow, here we go.
Yeah.
And once it got
I
published, so vulnerable.
Yes. Ooh, that's
Hmm.
a great question. I'm like taking notes of all the
No,
things I want to ask you.
yeah, it's great.
I am. But actually, that's a really good question because at every step of the creativity process, and I love that you mentioned like unless you have this crazy following, which if that's your, it's not impossible for that to happen.
No,
If that,
not at
yeah,
all.
that includes a very, we've talked about having a very robust relationship with self promotion, which is a
Mm.
deeply exposing journey to have. I mean, and
Oh.
I love that you talked about that for the literary world, what it's actually like. Like this is independent authors, like
Hmm.
that is the path for so many of us now.
Hmm.
And the same with musicians, the same with artists. The independent path on the one hand is fantastic because you have all the power. On the other hand is terrifying for so many reasons. If you even just look at like what the nervous system needs to feel safe and what our survival brain thinks of all the things that are happening when we put ourselves out there, it is an invitation to heal at every level. And you
Hmm.
just mentioned after it came out. So what happened when it was published? Like what did the weeks afterwards look like for you
Oh man.
emotionally?
Oh,
Harder or easier than the creation process?
harder, I think.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah. Because
Yeah.
the creation process almost felt like I'm still in my living room, and I'm like, there's a safety. I'm in this kitchen, and I'm getting to like cook and develop, and we're doing fun things, but it's like I'm alone. I'm like in my living room. And then the
Yeah.
moment that it got published, it almost felt like, oh, the curtains flung open, the windows are open, the door is open, and people are coming in to see what I've cooked and
Yeah.
to see my living room where like this is my like kind of safe space.
Yeah.
Um, and then it was all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I think too I think I'll mention the imposter syndrome that hit me
Mm.
was I was not expecting that of like, whoa, I feel like a fraud. Like I
Mm.
um it just the vulnerability of, oh, I tried so hard, but like am I like am I fake? Like is this even like authentic? And it just
Yeah.
was like crazy vulnerable thoughts and wrestling with shame. It was, I'll be honest, Courtney, how vulnerable it was. I remember like continually reading through my book once it came in, and like I had such a tension of like, this is incredible. Like I did it.
Yes.
Wow. I
Yeah.
feel, I cannot believe I did it. Like this is
Look at my baby.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a dream come true. And like if I
Yeah.
told my like 12-year-old self this, she would be like, whoa, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but then at the same time, there were moments that I would just kind of read through it over and over again because I was so afraid. I was picturing people reading it and thinking, what are they thinking? Like,
Right.
how are they, like, I was just, really, it was a vulnerable me realizing, oh, wow, I have a real fear of rejection here. I have a real
Yeah.
fear of just the inadequacy, of like a feeling of inadequacy, the real feeling of like, oh, I'm not enough. Like, I tried my hardest, but is it enough? And I felt embarrassed in ways, which was really funny to experience. These were just the
Yeah.
fresh couple weeks out of, just because of how vulnerable it was.
Right.
But
Yeah.
also, I think what was happening in me was all those things were there beforehand, and it was like I didn't catch up with it in the creative process until
Yep.
afterwards, and then it like
Yeah.
hit me like a ton of bricks of, oh, I'm
Yeah.
actually running through these walls. Like
Yeah.
these have been here for so
Yep.
long in my life.
They didn't just show up out of nowhere.
Oh no. And now it's
Right.
like I cannot run from them anymore. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm being hit with deep feelings
Yeah.
of inadequacy, the imposter syndrome, and this weird feeling of like embarrassment, as if what I have to offer is just kind of embarrassing. Like I had that feeling of like sometimes, I mean, I don't know if this is even a good, but like a karaoke situation where it's like someone's doing karaoke, but they think they're a really good singer.
That's a great analogy.
Like they really think they're a good singer, and everyone in the room is kind of doing that weird like cringe. Like we don't really want to tell them that
Yes. Oh,
they're out of tune. That was the feeling. That was the feeling I kind of got after I was like, oh my gosh, am I that karaoke singer? Like
totally. Well, that is such a good analogy, Micaela, and it's I'm so glad that you said it like that, because that's every creative that I coach, every artist, performer, actor has the exact same part of them come up. It's actually a protective part. Imposter syndrome is very protective because it's really effective at keeping you small, which is the only goal of your survival brain.
Wow.
So it's not like an evil thing. It's like a really brilliant protective force. And what a great analogy that part of you brought up for you. Like, Micaela, you need to get back down, because remember those like karaoke experiences where we like all felt bad for the person singing, but no one wanted to say anything? Like, that's going to be you. What an effective way to be like, oh my God, okay, all right, you're right. And that's what happens with people all the time.
That honestly makes so much validation to my experience, because I think another way to describe it was as if I finally came out of a box. It was as if I finally did the courage of believing that my voice had something to offer. But
so
the moment that it got published was the fear of, oh, wow, I actually feel the presence of the Lord. I just feel his nearness right now. But it was the moment that I decided, oh, I feel a little emotional, that like I am enough, and what my creativity matters, and what is in my heart matters, and the way I see the world matters. It was this coming out of this box that had tried to nail me down for so long as an artist and as a creative. But it leaves you feeling naked, because you no longer have those self-protective shields.
Totally.
And people can see you. And then it's like, okay, well, here I am. Is this enough?
Yeah.
And
it's so true.
But then at the end of the day, it's like, oh, we're all so
universal.
There. We're all relating to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that we hit on that, because it is so universal. And it's funny because I don't know if you've heard the idea of like people are thinking about themselves just as much as you're thinking about themselves. Like very rarely, as something like 95% of what we're afraid of actually happens. So
Yeah.
very rarely is somebody like, who does she think she is? You know, like
Yes.
flipping through your book, like, what the heck does she? People don't think like that because they're
Yes.
thinking about themselves. And if they do, they're projecting an
Right.
unhealed part of themselves. So, like, even
Hmm.
cringe, we did an episode on cringe. We can link it in the bio, but
Oh, that's
cringe,
awesome.
cringe is secondhand shame.
Mm.
It's you, there's a part of you that feels ashamed, and watching somebody try or put themselves out there is actually making you feel ashamed of that part of you.
Wow.
And so I know, so everybody's afraid, and it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling to be the subject of somebody's cringy feelings. It's also a really gross feeling to have for someone else, just to be like, ugh, who do
Hmm.
they think they are? Like
Hmm.
if you have that in you, or you notice that reaction, like there's an invitation for you to look at what you're ashamed of internally.
Wow.
I
That's
know. And when
so good.
you know all that, it's like it should make it easier for us to create, but it's still a
Hmm.
healing journey.
That makes me think of a quote I actually put in my book towards the back end by Rob Layman, but he says, "We don't let go into trust until we've exhausted our ego." Um,
Ugh.
and I just feel like that's so true because I think what keeps us so much of the time is the ego, is
Mm-hmm.
the wanting to protect some kind of self image or wanting to, protect
Totally.
anything. And it
Totally.
is that we
Yeah.
have to get over ourselves, and
Yeah.
the by getting over ourselves is also, actually owning ourselves in ways,
Yeah.
in like a
Yeah.
paradoxical kind of way.
It's true. No, it is true. Like the ego is everything that you said, like it's everything that you learned to become in order to feel safe. And
Mm,
ironically, like you know, ego death is a very painful, and I don't think a one-time thing.
no,
Um and also learning to own your beauty, your greatness, your talent, your majesty, your sovereignty, like all of that is actually like one of the things that the ego is the most afraid of.
yeah,
Isn't that so
wow,
funny? I know.
it
It would rather
is
pretend to be all those things than to actually own the fact that
oh,
you are.
because I that is so wild. But what I think of when I hear you say that is it's vulnerability. Like
Mm.
it's because to actually own the greatness inside of you, to own the massive amount of light that the Lord has put in you, to own the gift, the beauty of the depths of who
Yeah.
you are, is extremely vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it takes courage to sit in the authenticity of the depths of who you are. Um,
Mm.
and I don't know. For me, that gets me really, really excited and passionate. Of like, oh, but that's
Yeah.
everything. Like,
Totally.
and we're all. I don't know about you, but I will start kind of getting really emotional anytime I see a moment of deep vulnerability with a friend, or
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
um, even like dancing sometimes. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
watch dancers dance, I will just start crying because there's something so vulnerable about them choosing to be so emotive and in their body and so like just unshielded in
Yeah.
movement. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah. Beautiful.
it's just the gift of vulnerability.
Actually, that's a really good um, segue into something I definitely wanted to touch on with you, which was your
Mm,
relationship with femininity,
yeah.
which is a really big theme in this book,
Hmm.
and also kind of the foundation that you can tell this book was written from, like the essence, like the feminine essence, the powerful but like soft and tender
Yeah.
feminine essence. So would because you write about it so beautifully in your book, and I wonder if you could talk about what your relationship with your own femininity
Yeah.
has been like, what that journey has been like for you to fully embody it.
Yeah. Oh, it's it has been a beautiful and a hard journey. I grew up with, I grew up definitely, I was 100% a tomboy, like
Mm-hmm.
100%. I'm very sensitive. I mean, I wrote a poetry book. And so
We love
I
it.
I kind of developed some of these internal belief systems at a really young age that kind of like the girly girl felt really mean or really I got hurt in ways, feeling kind of outed from the the girly girl, or like more the girl who feels like maybe is a little bit more put together. And so how I dealt with it, I would say there's a pendulum swing in my observation with just femininity. Sometimes I think you have every girl is the same and asking the same kind of internal questions of like, am I
Mm.
worthy? Am I enough? Am I beautiful? Am I desirable? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that at a young age, there's kind of two pendulum swings that can happen within
Mm-hmm.
femininity. And one can be the swinging all the way to like, I want to fit in. I'll do anything I can to fit in. I'm going to wear all the clothes. I'm going to wear all the makeup. I'm
Yeah,
going to
sure.
straighten my hair obsessively. The middle school classic
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
thing. I'm going to, even just abandon myself and my own likes to be
Mm.
a part of like the in crowd. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
kind of the other pendulum swing, which is this is the pendulum swing I would say I fell under. How I coped was more of kind of an apathetic state of
Mm.
I've kind of felt the competition and the comparison that can happen in the female world, and I kind of said, I'm not even
Done.
gonna get into
Yeah.
this ring. I'm just gonna like this femininity ring. I'm just gonna hop out and I'm gonna wear a
Yeah.
t-shirt and shorts and I'm gonna wear tennis shoes and I'm gonna be every guy in an athletic competition and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be really good at sports but this whole femininity thing, that's I don't really care. I don't need to wear makeup. I don't need to wear a dress.
Yeah.
That's too weak. That's too
Yeah.
so I really I built up a lot of walls towards
Mm.
femininity because it felt too vulnerable. It felt like
Mm-hmm.
if I got in the ring, I wouldn't be enough. So why even try? Um and I I didn't I didn't have articulation for that. A lot of yeah, I feel you. I I'm an only child, and so I
Mm.
didn't have sisters to
Yeah.
help me. And my mom, I love her so much. I honor her so much, but she didn't role model like
Yeah.
secure
It's really common.
femininity. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Very, very common.
Yeah.
And my dad, again, I love him so deeply, but was more emotionally aloof. And so in
Yeah.
those states where my heart I would say I love again that you have mentioned safety so much because what I think I have found in my journey with femininity is the thing that is most needed for a woman to fully embrace the depths of what it means to be a woman and
Mm-hmm.
femininity is safety, is
Mm-hmm.
deep safety to um, to fully be herself and comfortable in her body,
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in just the ways that she is. It doesn't have to look a certain way. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and the beautiful thing about womanhood is how dichotomous it is. It is
Mm-hmm.
it is tender and fierce. It is
Mm-hmm.
grit and such softness. It is like
Mm-hmm.
water and fire all at once. It
Mm.
is like us women carry the both and. We can be
Mm-hmm.
quiet and loud, but I think society and culture has tried to put us in so many boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I think of, I mean, this could be a controversial statement, but the movie Barbie that just came out,
Mm.
but the whole scene where they're just trying to put her back in a box.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but that is what society has done with women for centuries.
I don't think that's controversial. I think that's, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you're
some
totally right.
people
Well, I
I
mean,
know.
yes, yeah.
I don't think it's controversial.
They probably don't listen to this podcast.
It's true. But it's a real experience. And I
Yeah.
would say, I would say for those both of those pendulum swings, both the apathetic tomboy that's trying to self-protect herself from the vulnerability of her own beauty, and then the the girly girl that's just striving so hard to be so beautiful and enough. Like, I have so much compassion
Mm-hmm.
for both ends, but both of them are boxes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this coming back into safety. I've had to do a lot of, inner healing. I've had to do a lot of fighting against the apathetic. It's so in me when it comes even to makeup, etc. But at the end of the day, there's this root fear of, um, am I safe to be seen? For me,
Yeah.
it's this
Oh,
root.
absolutely.
As a woman, it's so much easier. Like, you can't reject me if I don't actually let you see me. So I'm
Yeah.
just not gonna like care, and I'm gonna, pin it to I'm just really athletic, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
but really deep down it's like, oh no, I love beauty. I
Yeah.
love, like, I am so feminine. I am so
Mm-hmm.
soft. I am so
Yeah.
sensitive. And I have, to be honest, I've had to do a lot of healing where I've abandoned those parts of myself out of fear,
Totally. Absolutely.
and reconnected where where it felt safer to be the gritty, kind of hardened tomboy, where I was using anger to self
Yeah.
protect myself. I've had to let go and do the actual scary thing of, no, I'm gonna choose vulnerability. I'm
Yeah.
gonna fight against apathy. I'm gonna put extra makeup on. Um, and I would say for those that go the other pendulum swing, they have a totally different, journey.
Yeah.
And so, but that would be a
Yeah.
part of, yeah, a part of my story there. And I'm still consistently walking,
Yeah.
in trying to. I'm not gonna lie. I legitimately just this past week, Courtney, like I said, I'm an only child, didn't grow up with sisters, etc. I have some dear friends here with me who were helping teach me how to curl my hair. I'm 29.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
but
So beautiful though.
I never felt the safety to learn, because it would have been me
Yeah.
alone in my bathroom, and it felt so vulnerable to go to a girlfriend and say, "Hi, I really want to curl my hair, but I don't know how, and I need help." I I was so guarded. I didn't know how to ask for help. And so I just stayed apathetic because because the root of apathy is loneliness. Um, that's when you feel loneliness, you turn into apathy, because it just is like, well, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Because you feel alone in the fight. And,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
and no, I mean, I pretty much done, but I am so passionate about women finding the depths of their beauty and being rid of shame, and honestly getting really I there's the beauty of grit, getting really gritty against the places that package them in, that box them in, that try to
Mm.
silence them, that try to
Mm.
keep them small. I was
Yeah.
listening to an interview, with Greta Gerwig, actually. I
Love it.
love her. I think she's a
I
genius.
know. She is
She's just
brilliant.
brilliant. And she mentioned that she was like, the girls when they're like 5 years old or 6 years old, they always do the classic dress up where they don't just put one outfit on, but they put like five outfits on top of another. It's like the pink and the neon and like the crazy hat, and then it's like you're wearing five different shirts and like five different skirts and like two different color socks. And she was just talking, and she was like, what happened when does the switch happen, when the young girl stops just being a little flamboyant and like very bold and accessories, and
Mm-hmm.
stops and like tones herself down, like waters herself down. And I really have felt the Lord in this journey consistently say to me, Micaela, you have to stop watering yourself down. You have to stop watering yourself down. Like,
So beautiful.
you are safe to bloom. You are safe to be wildly colorful, but at the same time, so soft, like a still lake in the morning. You can carry the both and.
I cried like 6 times while you were talking. Because I can relate. I don't know any woman who can't relate. Like you said, like the different extremes will have different experiences. I was the other extreme. I just realized, okay, I will become the most beautiful woman in any room, the most charming. And that's how I'm going to survive. And that is a, definite recipe for failure. And I consistently would just walk around feeling sorry that anyone ever had to look at me, because I was just not the most perfect woman in the room. So I loved this is like a whole other podcast, but I loved that you write about it and your whole process with it, even like with an essay in your book. And I would just encourage any woman to pick up Micaela's book for resonance and for, even like you said, not having sisters. And I was just reading, I had to do a lot of my own recovery work and reparenting the teenage parts of me. And I have nieces now that I'm like obsessed with, that I'm just like, we're going to celebrate every milestone. Amen. And and we need that. We need aunts and grandmas and sisters and moms. And we needed that growing up. And so few of us had a tribe of healthy feminine, men and women didn't have that. And it's so vital to a child's development, no matter who they turn out to be. It's so vital. But for those that are recovering their sense of embodied feminine, it's essential. And so I honestly think your book is a resource for that, for women who need solidarity and who need to talk to somebody that maybe don't have someone to talk to, just to have stories and to see what a journey actually looks like of recovering that. So every woman especially, go out and get Micaela Fox's book. And where can people find you just for more?
I am on Amazon, so you could go to amazon.com right now.
We will link that in the show notes, everybody.
Just do a Google search, Iridescent, An Invitation to Awaken to the Light of Being by Micaela Fox. And then also you could just go to micaelafox.com. Very simple. And it'll be there as well.
Beautiful. It was so wonderful to have you here today.
Oh, Courtney, thank you. I am so honored. I think you are the most brilliant and wonderful. And you have played a really beautiful role in my healing journey of just our small walks. And the way that you validate and see is really profound. And so just thank you for this time.
Thank you so much. I'm just so emotional and just such a sparkly place right now. I don't even know how to end this podcast. I will end it by saying, whoever's listening, you really are so loved. And we just hope that you have the most wonderful day. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. If you have enjoyed this podcast at all, we would love if you would subscribe, rate it, send it to your friends. That would really help us get this message out, this message of empowering people towards emotionally sustainable creativity. Also, we have a PDF for you. So there's an exercise that I created called Inspiration Mirroring. And basically, it is for those that are looking to get acquainted with their authentic, truest self, based on the idea that whatever inspires you embodies your potential. And so if you want to get started on that journey today of really understanding who you are at your core, the person that you hope you are, then you can go to the link in my bio on Instagram or go to my website and download that PDF. I think that's all. Have a beautiful day.